What's going on, guys? Kalamazi here, and today's video is going to be sort of like summarizing the feedback videos that we did with everybody over the past couple weeks and stuff. Some of them were half an hour long, some were an hour. I guess one was half hour, one was an hour, one was like an hour and a half. But I want to summarize all today, talk about feedback for 12.1 with Warlock stuff. We're going to hit on the class tree, Destro, Demo, Aff, try and fly through it all with timestamps down below in the description. If you guys missed some of that, hopefully most of that will all be in here and summarized for you guys. Honestly, just jumping right on into it, the class tree briefly, and getting into each spec and stuff. We'll hit on hero talents a little bit if it's like deemed worthy or whatever. And go from there, but you know, yeah. Now, a lot of this is like my own thoughts on things too. It was influenced by all the awesome guests we had in the channel and stuff too, and I'll mention what they said as well, as long as I can recall what that is. But I want to make one final video summarizing all that, so here we are. Very briefly, the class tree. So honestly, I think we're all pretty much in general agreement of like the class tree is fine. Our capstones are not as exciting as others are for certain classes, but okay, Blight of Tongues and Weakness are pretty good. I think they're undervalued, but not as like super exciting or engaging as other classes have their capstones. But for the most part, you can get whatever you want in the class tree, right? If you want Banish and Exhaustion and Shadow Fury and Oppressing Darkness and Blight of Tongues, you can basically get whatever you want. Some points are a bit more like not required. Things like Feldon, you can just pull and put into like Abyss Walker if you want it, or Double Gate if you want it, or whatever you're looking for, you can pretty much get without much issue. Which, looking at our older class tree and like Dragonflight and things, that was way more of an issue. You couldn't get half of those you wanted. You wanted Banish, what do I drop? You wanted XYZ, I can't drop the core part of my class tree. There's still a handful of nodes that are like, for example, you have, where are they? Int buff from Eridar, Nathrazine being Leech, which is like sort of, I guess, whatever. Anilian being Crit, Satyr being Haste, which is like fine. They're sort of like placeholder nodes, I guess, in a sense. They can just be like sort of made part of the baseline profile or whatever. I guess they couldn't be, but either way, it's fine. They don't feel as bad, but you can get whatever you want. One of the bigger like focal points was the loss of Health Funnel, obviously, which has been a polarizing take for some. Some don't mind it, some think it's terrible. That was sort of swapped with Infernal Beneficiary. Whenever you drain life, your main demon's healed. Arson brought up a good point about making this a choice node between like Beneficiary and Health Funnel. Maybe like Beneficiary heals for 400% in combat. Health Funnel is 100% out of combat or whatever, right? You can use it in combat too, but it heals for less. Gives you more of like a diverse kind of choice thing. If I had that option, I'd take Health Funnel all the time. Because honestly, more often than not, I'm just like, my pet's half dead, just resummon him, which is not fluid gameplay, but is what it is, right? Once again, I mean, besides that, like our capstones aren't like incredibly exciting, but they're still pretty solid. I wish this gave a 4th health stone charge instead of just being 5% more health. Both are fine. It does feel like with this being a minute cooldown, I'm just chugging health stones so often, but at the same time, sort of like nitpicking things, not the end of the world. There's a day somewhere in the future they're going to change Black Harvest, make it a good talent, and make it interesting with like bigger pets and bigger abilities and beefier spells, but that is not that day, or today's not that day. Maybe at some point, we'll see. I do wish Artifice is maybe like a bit of a baseline spell too, just reduce the cast of Soulstone by half regardless. You basically need this wherever you are. Like if you're being relied on for a Battle Resin M+, or if you're the Battle Resin rating, not having this is like just night and day. Whether you're making health stones for yourself every so often or having to res somebody in M+, it is like a required point, which once again in the class tree, sort of get whatever you want regardless, but it'd be nice to have this be just part of Soulstone baseline, reduce the cast time and health stone, all that, right? The last thing that I sort of wanted to hit on too was, I think it'd be cool to have Horrify interact with Howl of Terror, which is sitting somewhere, there you go. Being able to like fear multiple targets in place, instead of having them just run around, because Horrify is basically it's fear, like the spell fear causes the mob to tremble in place. Howl of Terror is not a fear. I mean, it is, they flee in fear, but it's not the same thing as the single, we're gonna fear one mob kind of thing. But having the ability to say, hey, I'm gonna Howl of Terror, and it's gonna like fear 8 mobs or whatever it's gonna be, but they're all feared in place, really cool. A bit more utility for M+. It's sort of like this is sort of like a quick mass CC where if any damage is caused to the mob, it breaks it. But I think that'd be cool. I wouldn't mind that at all. It's been sort of called for, I guess, brought up for a while. It'd be pretty cool to have around. But besides that, I mean, I very rarely ever played Horrify. I played it on scenarios, I think, in Mythic Prog briefly to fear a mob in place. That was about it. It's a cool ability, but I mean, I rarely ever cast Fear in PvE and rarely ever play Howl of Terror in PvE. Maybe it's more of a PvP thing. If that's the case, at the end of the world. But still wouldn't mind seeing that change a little bit. But for the most part, the class tree feels fine. Wouldn't mind some more interesting nodes and beef things up a bit, but at the same time, like, whatever you want in the class tree, you can basically just get. All right, so starting off the actual, like, class, or I guess spec tree sections here, I want to hit on Affliction. For Affliction, we spoke with Arson, who is very knowledgeable about Affliction stuff, plays basically Affliction all the time on stream. I played some Demonology lately. He's sort of given into the better spec. But I think we all do wish that Affliction was in a more competitive form. I do sort of feel like towards the early part of alpha into like late alpha, early beta, there are better forms of Affliction than what we had when it went live. I think this is still a very fun version of AF, but it has problems that weren't, I don't think, present in early alpha, and we had the other version of AF, but we fixed some of those problems, but created some more problems on our own by doing that. Now, I think as far as hero talents are concerned, the first thing is like the shard generation between Soul Harvester and Hellcaller is diabolically different. Soul Harvester feels incredible to play with shard gen. Giving Dark Harvest a shard gen every 35-ish seconds feels insane. It makes AF feel that much more exciting. Hellcaller doesn't really feel that way. You've got your minute cooldown on Malevolence, which I mean gives you a haste buff, more wither stacks. You feel more damage when you're hitting Malevolence, right? But the problem is like, if you played Soul Harvester in AoE with spamming Seed, or even like single target, and you played Hellcaller, there is a night and day difference in shard generation. You're getting multiple extra shards every half a minute with Dark Harvest compared to Hellcaller not getting that, which I mean, like when you're playing Soul Harvester, that is, right? Which in turn leads to like just generating more shards passively. I mean, you have the ability just to generate more shards while you're generate from agony ticks and things you're generating through Dark Harvest, and you can just chain casting Seed longer and longer. When you're finally running out of like shards from spamming that Seed, Harvest back up cooldown again. You can just cast Harvest, start spamming more Seeds again with Soul Harvester. Hellcaller doesn't have that comparatively. I wouldn't mind maybe adding like some clause somewhere in the tree where like when Malevolence is active, your chance to like generate a shard is doubled, something like that. It'd be cool to add it in this row possibly, where you have like Malevolence proccing randomly, things like Bellvine buffing UA and Seed. I wouldn't mind adding in here somewhere, something where like Malevolence has a bit more shard gen, but maybe tied into it. Because both specs get Dark Harvest, right? But Dark Harvest is tied specifically to Soul Harvester for shard gen, not Hellcaller. It feels a little weird. I also think that the Bellvine should probably be buffed considerably. Well, maybe not considerably, but it was sort of odd that it was buffed so much for destruction leading into 12.0's like launch and the raid coming out. For Chaos Bolt, a very large amount for Hellcaller. Affliction really didn't get that, but the more you think about it, it sort of makes sense as to why it didn't. And that leads to like the biggest problem with Affliction, I think, in general right now is you have the right side of the tree and the left side of the tree. And yes, I use my left hand for right and right for left there. I live in Florida. I think I did. So basically, if you're looking to do single target in the Affliction tree, you're playing over here, this side of the tree. This is where it's at. If you're doing AoE, it's all over here. There is no overlap between the two. It's very, very hard to get single target elements when you're playing like an M+ build, when you're doing AoE. When you're playing single target and want some AoE, you really can't get it because Seed of Corruption is here. But so the Seeds is all the way down here. And this is your AoE. You don't have Rapture anymore, which I like UA more than Rapture. I'm just saying both have their positives and negatives. But you can't just say, okay, I'm playing mostly a single target build. I don't really need so in a sense. I can just throw a Seed out, spread, corruption and things to multiple mobs and Rapture them down. So it's or whatever. You have to have so to do AoE as Affliction. Having it be a capstone is just not feasible. In Dragonflight, it was like Rapture, Seed, so. Rapture, Seed, so. And you had things that built upon like dot damage and maybe some like Seed damage jumps down here. You had like Doom Blossom down here as well with Dread Touch. I don't really want Doom Blossom or Dread Touch back. I don't want them back. But we need to get so higher in the tree. Like honestly, putting it up here I think is more than fine. The classes that are good in M+, and the classes that are often good in general when it comes to raiding and that meat grinder kind of content, are the classes that can do single target and do AoE. Look at Demonology, for example. Look at the other classes that are good right now, for example. Demon Hunter. I mean, I guess it depends on tuning for Hunter and things, but classes that are good that can do both of those things without saying, hey, I'm losing 30k in single target, or I'm playing ST, but I have no AoE. Like, those roles, like Affliction here, or even Destro in a sense, see far less play unless it's a super niche fight where like Destro's Havoc cleave profile is really good, or maybe Aff for some reason is good in a fight, but that was just like this tier on dragons because of seed anyways, right? We need to find some way in 12.1 to make the tree to get single target and AoE elements in the tree. Now bumping so up here, I think would open it up a lot, because I mean there's a world where like maybe these capstones, maybe this is like maybe this right here is like a Doom Blossom-esque effect, like, or like Nocturnal Yield or something, right? I love Yield, don't want it going away, nothing of the sort. But having the ability to get, you know, seed and so up here and go into more ST based elements would be phenomenal for Aff. But I think you'd still be in a spot of like, okay, well, I can path more over here, but I'm still leaving a bit on the table here. So there has to be some way for them to find like a middle ground of like your capstones working together to give you both ST and AoE based elements. I think the middle of the tree here with like Ravenous Afflictions, Death's Embrace, those both work in single target and an AoE. Phenomenal center part of the tree. It's just like you can't get over here to get these because you have to take all these for AoE. If I'm playing single target, I'm over here taking all of these and I can't get any of this. So it's literally just like two completely different things. You can't really find a middle ground for any of them. Even when it comes to an M+ build, I'm not playing sudden onset here. Some builds do, some don't, some play Malediction over it, but like I'm not playing Agony has more stacks and does more damage in an M+ build. Like it just feels weird. I'm making a concession to needing more ST and playing Malediction. I'm playing Shard Instability in an M+ build. I'm playing Grasp in a Hellcaller build because my single target is so bad as Hellcaller. I lose like 20k when I shift from a build like this in single target to this. Demonology loses nothing. My Demo Sim from M+ build and ST build like the exact same number because it can do both things. Affliction can do good AoE or good single target, but there is no mixing the two. And that's the problem we need to find out how to address. Other talent nodes, things like Dark Glare and Dark Harvest, I wish one of these still extended dots still. I know that like they're trying to get away from Dark Glare being a dot extension, but it feels like it's an element of eras past where dots mattered and they don't right now. It's partially because like extension's gone, UA's been undertuned for a while unless you're taking all these nodes over here, which are hard to get when you're playing AoE. I want dots to matter more, and I want Dark Glare to matter more. And then Blizz made a post in like I think early beta when they removed Dark Harvest dot extension and then Dark Glare dot extension, saying we don't want players pooling cooldowns around, or like pooling shards around like Dark Glare and Harvest and things for extensions, but that's how every single class in the game functions. That's how classes have worked since alpha of vanilla WoW. Like you pool resources around cooldowns, right? And I mean, we still do regardless because they made Dark Glare not extend dots, but it increases dot damage now. So you still pool around it all the same. But dot extension felt a lot better, I think. I wouldn't mind having that baked back in somewhere. And I think having Malefic Grasp come out of Dark Glare feels very odd too. Dark Glare being a 2-minute cooldown feels really weird. Like you have like this dot damage amp every 2 minutes, and you have this Grasp amp every 2 minutes, but like it feels like you do a lot of damage every 2 minutes, and it's like, okay, I'm just sort of like a little flat profile with some bumps and things here and there from like Harvest coming in, but it feels sort of like flat. If Dark Glare was a minute and had the dot damage increase effect on him, and also subsequently making Grasp a minute while having things like Eye Contract and Plating, whatever, that would feel a lot better when it comes to M+, when it comes to rating, and you'd feel that effect of, hey, my dots are doing more damage now every minute versus every 2. And then honestly, I think having Grasp tied to Dark Glare being a minute feels way better than 2. And I think that you can justify having Grasp tied to Dark Glare in that sense, being a minute cooldown. But having an iconic ability like Grasp tied to a 2-minute cooldown, being Dark Glare, and being sort of weird, unimpactful both on their own, and they're tied together feels really weird. I think making it a minute cooldown might just solve both those issues. It's still like weird stationary gameplay with Grasp, but I mean, you can sort of make it work. I mean, extension being gone from Harvest, I wouldn't mind adding it back to Harvest and leaving Dark Lair where it's at, where you have like the damage amp from Dark Lair, the extension from Harvest, and like the grasp damage increase the dots, like flaring them up. So you have, the sequence of casting Dark Lair to increase dot damage. And you put up your UAs, you cast Dark Lair for a dot damage increase, and you Harvest to increase the duration of those UAs, and then you begin channeling Malefic Grasp to flare up the UAs that are doing more damage from Dark Lair and are extended from Dark Harvest. That's a cool sequence, and it works well together, right? What we have currently is some weird world of like wanting to cast UAs before Dark Lair, so when you cast, or it's sort of like before, but also after, and balance it around like Dark Harvest shard gen. But when you cast Dark Lair, it's increasing dot damage, but like I'm casting dots that do more damage after when he's already active, so I'm losing value, and then I want to like weave in Malefic Grasp when I have some shards, but I want to cast more UAs to make Grasp do. It's just a weird, convoluted playstyle. I think if you made Dark Lair a minute, gave Dark Harvest back its dot extension, make it UA only. Make Dark Harvest extend UA only. It's fine if you want. I don't care. No big deal. If it's too OP to extend Agony too, make it UA only. Who cares, right? Dark Lair a minute, Harvest back to extensions for dots, maybe like UA only extension, and then subsequently making Grasp minute cooldown. So you would like put up your dots, Dark Lair, damage increase, Dark Harvest, extend UAs, more shards, drain with Grasp, more shards from Dark Harvest UAs, drain with Grasp, and go from there every minute. That playstyle feels way more rewarding, exciting, and hopefully would bring AF back to where it felt like an alpha. But regardless, though, we got to find a way to make this tree work with like not just ST and AoE over here. We have to have both elements of the tree mixed up somewhere. That's just sort of that. I want dots to matter again. And it feels like when I put 5 UAs on a mob when I'm solo questing, whatever, and I'm watching it just like not die any faster than what it was when I had an Agony and a Wither on it, it's like, what are we doing? So there's that. Once again, this Soul Harvester versus Hellcaller thing, like both feel very different in M+ and rating. The Shard Gen from Harvest feels great. Maybe tack some kind of like Shard Gen thing onto Malevolence possibly. Maybe a proc chance, higher increased chances to get a shard. Maybe whenever Malevolence is active, Wither gives a chance, and when it ticks to generate a shard with like an ICD on it, so you can't generate a million from a million Withers being active. But I think that'd be cool. There's a lot of cool thematic things we can do with Affliction, and it's still a fun version of AF, but we're very close to having a much more exciting version of AF, and that's what I want. I want an AF tier. I haven't played AF in Raid since Castle Nathria. Please, let's make Affliction good again, please. The next spec I want to hit on is Demonology. Demonology was Mr. Bibbrain and Mr. THC. That was part of the like discussion video we had. And I mean, honestly, there's not really a whole lot of like negatives with Demonology, right? Demo's been the best spec since mid to late beta. Best spec in M+, best spec in the Raid. Even better in the Raid than we thought it would be, comparatively to, well, I guess initial Raid thoughts and all that. We talked about it a bit in the F section, but Demonology does what you need. It is one of the specs in the game that can do single target and can do cleave, right? Stack cleave, but I mean, the more we get into like modern day WoW and stuff, I feel like the less you encounter like these super spread council cleave based fights, which I think should come back, to be fair. But a lot of these fights, when you're looking at like a race world first setting, which trickles down to a Mythic, like a Hall of Fame setting, Mythic Raid setting in general, are these meat grinder kind of fights. I mean, look at this Raid tier. I mean, we can go through all the bosses. Chimeras, meat grinder. Bellerin was like single target based, bit of cleave, but a bit of a weird anomaly. Lura, single target. Bellerin's basically single target for where it matters. There's cleave in the first phase where it matters too, but Imperator version, stat cleave. Veracious was single target with stat cleave on the ads. Fallen King Salhadar was basically stat cleave on the orbs and the boss. Some classes spread cleave a bit. Belgorn Ezrock, meat grinder, stat cleave. Light Blinded Vanguard, stat cleave. Crown of the Cosmos, a bit of a give and take fight, but once again, single target, very relevant there. A lot of stat cleave in certain spots. And that's just the gist of it, man. Demonology is good at single target, good at stat cleave. One of the things we brought up a good bit in the discussion was like, we wish that I did too. I wish that my pets, like my Dreadstalkers, did more damage. My Felguard, my Dreadstalkers, they do a very little bit of damage. I don't know what this is even from. This is from, I think, a dungeon I ran. What was my overall for Felguard? It's typically pretty abysmal. I don't know, it might be broken down. Yeah, the in-game meter is sort of weird, but Felguard's like, man, it's like 5%, 4.5%, I think, in M plus roughly. Dogs aren't even that high anymore either. They're like 5 or 6%, 7%. I'm not saying I want them to be like my number one source of damage or anything, but like between the Apex talent and Diabolist, like, you know, Ruinations, Pit Lords, Monsters of Chaos, and all that, I feel like our core pets, even like imps in a sense, have just become a decent bit devalued. Wouldn't mind seeing a shift back at dogs being a bit more powerful. Third dog, greater dog from Undermine is always a fun tier set. Third dog is very cool. Felgar itself as well being better in AoE, even in single target would be good. I mean, a few weeks ago we were discussing no Felgar builds of Demonology, which is just a fundamental, hey, Felgar needs help, whether it's damage or Axe Toss, which needs to be fixed as well. It needs both. It needs damage, and we need to look at changing Axe Toss into some kind of interrupt. I mean, we had 2 kicks for a little while with Fell Hunter, like Brimore Fell Hunter, whatever it's called, and this lasted a whole 5 days into launch. It was gone. Axe Toss, I don't know what they want to do with it, but it needs to have a spell lockout at this point. It feels like back in like Shadowlands, we were fighting the battle of Demon needs a kick, and we got it in Axe Toss, which is, they made it a kick and a stun, but it needs to be a lockout as well now. The half-minute cooldown feels sort of bad too. I don't know why the Felguard's like the superior Warlock pet. It's the big pet, but its kick is 6 seconds longer cooldown-wise than our dog. Seems weird. Making it a spell lockout is something that needs to happen for M plus utility. The game is constantly evolving, and it feels really bad not having a spell lockout in M plus. Really not having a kick in M plus, right? There's a mob over there, for example. I see it casting. There it is, and the tank will ping it. It's getting pinged, kick it in. I can't kick that thing in, so I know I'm gonna kick it. Someone else is gonna kick too, and my kick's gonna overlap their spell lockout, and it's gonna get stunned and not run in. It just feels terrible. Like, that lack of utility is not really acceptable in modern day WoW combat and M plus and things. It needs to be fixed, needs to be updated. So hopefully that'll happen in 12.1 to some extent. And then besides that, I mean, like, there's not really a crazy amount of things. Like, we talked a bit about Doom and Doomguard being a bit, I'd like to play Doomguard more. Having it locked behind Doom, I guess, makes sense thematically and things. I sort of wish it was just like the old set we had back in the day, where you put up Doom, it pops and spawns a Doomguard possibly. The summonable version of Doomguard's cool too, but I feel like it needs something. I don't really know what it is. It needs something. Maybe like not putting it behind Doom and making it like more of a central talent here, having it here and just branch out into like Doom, and like maybe it's like spitballing. Maybe like you put Doomguard here so you get it all the time. It's like Doomguard into like Doom and like Doombolt Volley, or like Doomguard into like some like single target-esque spell and something that amplifies it more. That'd be cool. Wouldn't mind that. Similar to like the Eyes of Gul'dan that was around a bit towards the end of beta, when you cast Hand of Gul'dan, it spawned in 3 eyes and launched those red laser beams. Those were so cool thematically. I was so pumped when they were around, and next week they were gone. Like, I think Doomguard is super cool thematically. I'd love to have both, like Doomguard be more relevant, maybe like more of like a major player in Demo's like just core ability profile. Eyes of Gul'dan would be cool too, but I mean, that's sort of that. As far as hero talents are concerned, I mean, honestly, like, Diabolist is like the Demonology hero talent. Soul Harvester's just there. If it's better in damage, you'll play it. The Shard gen through Shadow of Death is nowhere near as relevant for Demonology as is Affliction. Whenever you summon Tyrant, you get 3 shards. Whatever's better in ST and Cleave, you'll play it. But Diabolist feels like the Demonology hero talent, and Soul Harvester's just sort of there as like we needed to give him Soul Harvester, but that's just sort of how it is. So it feels the other way for Affliction. So there's that. But yeah, I'd say that's probably more or less it for Demonology. A couple nodes like, I guess Sack Souls, even like Tactics, things like this is fine, like Dominant Hand. Some things just don't seem like they're really like that good. Probably could use a bit of like a beef up. Without Tyrant extending imps anymore and things, Sack Souls doesn't see play anywhere. Doesn't really see play anywhere either. If it increased like damage to all your targets, or all the mobs hit by Hand of Gul'dan instead of just like your target, you'd play Dominant Hand and plus and things. But just like your main target, just sort of whatever. These are underpowered as well now too. Felgar doesn't do any damage, so that's basically it, I'd say overall. But Demonology, I mean, man, it's Demonology. The Apex feels solid for the most part. It's definitely a skill ceiling on Demonology, and when it comes to like Implosion, Siphon versus Hell and Back play, I wouldn't mind my implosion doing more damage again. Because like whenever I implode, it doesn't feel like I'm imploding for damage. I'm imploding for cores to fuel my apex, or cores in general, and to summon the imps that cleave, the unstable soul imps. And that's fine because they do damage too, but like I wouldn't mind seeing some damage maybe shifted out of like hell and back imps, possibly into implosion, or just leave these where they're at and make implosion do damage again. When I hit it, look at the meter, I don't even see it move anymore. That's partially due to the fact that we can only implode 6 imps now, not 12 or how many we had before, but also because just like, could use some help. So there's that. But yeah, I mean, I guess Demonology. And the last spec we have is Destruction. Now, Destro's like just an anomaly, man, where it's been the same thing for the last like 15 years, and it's not even like a bad thing. But I do feel like Destro's damage profile has gradually become a bit less relevant or impactful based on how the game is evolving and the damage profiles we see in raiding more often than not. And that's a loaded take, opinion based, could be wrong. And don't get me wrong, it's still good. We played it for the past few tiers a good bit. But I feel like it was the best tune spec the last few tiers as well, up until this expansion launch, right? I mean, in like Undermine and Omega, even in Nerebar for a while. But I assume we played Destro on a fight like Fallen King Salhadar. I thought we'd play it on Dragons of Nightmare, or not Dragon of Nightmare, the Dragons, the brothers, Velgor and Azerok, whatever, I keep calling them Nightmare. But we just played Aff, Proceed Spam. We just played Demo basically on Fallen King Salhadar. There's a bit of early Destro play, but like the cleave profiles wasn't even as relevant as we thought it would be. And like, I think it's not really just the cleave profile. Destro, like, I think this middle part of the tree here is actually pretty good for the most part. The bottom is just it's just a bit of a mess though, man. It's just sort of a mess. This video, we talked about, it was myself, Luzi, and Zare, we were talking about Destro for like an hour and a half in like the feedback video we made earlier and stuff, right? A lot of it was talking about like older Destruction, I think I said Demo, but Destro. Older Destruction with like char domains, like what made Destro fun at its core, right? When you had Fire and Brimstone, and like you could toggle on and off, it would launch Chaos Bolts, you had char domains. It was like, is this version of Destro with like just Rain of Fire being your spender for the last 15 years and Cataclysm being a thing for ages and everything else being the same way it's been for literally 10 years, is it getting old or a bit outdated or a bit like just not as it used to be, right? I mean, you still have things like Fire and Brimstone, but it's not the old version. It's a passive that doesn't incinerate damage, right? It's not like toggleable. Let's turn on Fire and Brimstone, toggle it on, launch a million Chaos Bolts. All right, turn it on, cleave a Conflagrate, turn it off, launch bolts again. There's a bit of a skill ceiling there to know when you want to turn it on versus not, which is so fun too. Like, this makes Destro fun, but I feel like it's gotten a bit stale, at least to me. Once again, very opinionated, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe I feel like I want more, but I don't really know what it is as far as like gameplay is concerned. But as far as like raw nodes are concerned, like improved conflict rate doesn't really do anything. As long as you're like playing it optimally, really doesn't do anything anymore, especially with like Roaring Blaze changing over here and being a really fun node to play with by spreading conflict rates in a lot of fights. Or spreading withers in a lot of fights through conflict rate. Feels good, higher skill ceiling. You hop over here and it's like, well, as long as you're playing conflict rate properly, it really doesn't do anything at all. It just nets you another conflict rate, like one more over like an entire encounter, right? So this is a node I probably look at changing maybe, but like, I mean, besides that, there's this world of like Mayhem and improved Havoc play, or Havoc and improved Havoc play. And we saw the saga of Mayhem improve Havoc during the first few weeks of the raid in 12.0, where it was like not working at all. Then it was fixed. I think it's in the current form now still, where it just hops around randomly, and it's very annoying to play with. We need to fix that as well, like internally. I believe, I'm not even sure the interaction exactly, but I believe if it's like within like the last, if you enter like the improved Havoc like duration extension part of the Mayhem window, it can just reproc on a different target. So if it's like a mid, like if it spells like mid cast and it reprocs onto your target, it's just super weird. We need to like address that somehow, or just change it so it doesn't really work that way. Havoc and improve Havoc being like a short duration and a very long cooldown feels great. Then there are settings where you want Mayhem and some where you want Havoc. Controlled cleave versus like just consistent cleave, right? Where there's multiple targets all the time, you want to cleave, but the Mayhem improve Havoc interaction feels weird. I like the long duration, but we need to fix the weird like hopping effect and all that, or figure out what we want to do there. I think Shadowburn feels good for the most part. I like Fiendish Cruelty. It's grown to me a lot. The changes with Conflagration of Chaos that came in 0.5 are really good, where Conflagrate affects either Conflagrate or Shadowburn and vice versa. Very good changes there. I like that. I do feel like, we talked about this in the video too, Crushing Chaos should definitely have Shadowburn on it. We've talked about it for like a lot of tiers, man. It's been like Crushing Chaos. It was the Apex talent too. They didn't have Shadowburn for a while and they added it in. Shadowburn is a shard consuming spell. Like, things that consume shards should work with Crushing Chaos. Chaos Bolt, Rain of Fire. Even in Destro's current form right now, when you're playing Crushing Chaos, like in an execute part of a fight, and you put your Infernal down, cool, I have 8 stacks of Crushing Chaos, my Chaos Bolts are gonna destroy. You don't even cast the Chaos Bolts. This comes, like the Infernal comes down, this effect is active, and it expires with 8 stacks. You're just spamming Shadowburn the whole time because of how tuning is, right? And that's not a Shadowburn problem. That's more of just like a, we need to add Shadowburn to Crushing Chaos. It just feels like a weird non-bow, non-combo, weird like interaction. You can make it like for less value, make it like 10%, right? All it's really gonna do is like make it so like you're getting more Shadowburn value and execute, but that's fine. It doesn't make a big difference, but it feels really weird like infernaling at the end of a fight and execute and knowing you want to spam Shadowburn and watching these stacks expire. And it's confusing to newer players. I get the question all the time, do I cast Chaos Bolt in execute when I'm playing Destro or Crushing Chaos? No, you ignore it. That's a terrible answer to give. I hate that. So let's add Shadowburn to Crushing Chaos, please. Moving on from there, I mean, I think the Apex is fine. It's fun. Just whatever. It is what it's an Apex. It's what it is. I don't know. This just needs work. I mean, realistically, this is like diabolically just not ever gonna see any play. This thing is like less than 1% of your overall damage. It's really bad. The extension part of CDF was added back, which is nice, but the channel cast time reduction that we had in Warcraft and things was not added back. It's not the end of the world. We also have just Roaring Blades to spread withers and maintain withers or immolates, right? You don't need this anywhere. The damage is abysmal. You don't need the extension clause anymore. You just don't need it. To a similar extent, like we're not even taking devastation in some places anymore. Some builds aren't, so we can path through rapidity to get diabolic embers, so we can get other nodes over here as well. Like we're pathing through here for no gain at all in a single target, just so we can have more nodes over here, right? You've got Soulfire attached to Overlord, Overfiend, which just feels like a step back from Avatar Destruction we had in Dragonflight and War Within. Soulfire Decimation felt great. Why we got rid of it, I don't know. Would like it back a whole lot. Soulfire's cast time is shorter now. It doesn't feel bad to hit, but it doesn't feel as good to hit as it did in War Within and expansion before Decimation. Doesn't feel very good. Overlord being a thing by itself, whenever you cast X amount of Chaos Bolts or shards spent, was really cool. You knew it'd be spawning in every X shard spending abilities. It was very cool. It feels like we removed the best part of Soulfire and the best part of this and just stuck two abilities that don't synergize at all together. And it's very weird. Why Rifts over here? No idea. The damage is diabolically low. It barely ever procs. Man, Rift has fallen so far from where it used to be. Like, Rift is a cool, iconic ability. It's like your Scepter Sargeras. It's just like some passive node over here doesn't do anything, man. I wish we'd separate these two, at least change this up a good bit, make this more exciting somehow. Having 2 points in Ruin and 2 in Devastation feels bad. You're spending 4 of your 10 capstones in passive abilities here, just to get down to this section of the tree. And then we look at things like Improved Chaos Bolt. That's 5 points. You're spending half your 10 capstone points max in 5 passive abilities. We can just take this and bake it into Chaos Bolt passively. Reduce Chaos Bolt's baseline passive cast time in the spellbook. You don't need this thing here. Buff it. It's literally a placeholder for points. It doesn't matter. Put something else there, it's more thematic, right? This is great. Like Conflagration, it's good. Embers feels good. Feels worthwhile. Chaos Incarnate feels less than it should be at 70%. And like, I like the swap they did here, right? By putting this below Incarnate. But now it's like you want the mastery here and you want Incarnate for both like the effect and the path through here. So we're skipping out on Devastation, pathing through a dead node in a single target just to get Embers for basically 1 point, like 1 point being spent versus 2 in here to get here. So we can hop down here. Honestly, like, Ire is fine, but Ire feels more AoE based than like CDF. This should be over here somewhere. I feel like we need to prune CDF, get this out of here, prune Ruin Devastation down to 1, make this baseline, separate these, make them fun somewhere else again. This is probably fine. Maybe make this like a higher percent. This is good. I think the biggest thing I like for Destro, you could literally like just trim these down, make it like 2 less points. Just make Rift its own talent, man. I think like during Shadowlands beta or something, might have been like Dragonflight, we had like Dimensional Rift over here. I think like Rift was here. It wasn't a passive, it was just like straight up the button you hit with 3 rifts, and it was like Dimensional Rift, Fire, like Flame Rift Cleaves, Lessons of Space Time, the Legion Legendary, and something else over here. It was like 4 or 5 points around Rift, and it might have been like 1 or 2 too many points, but man, like, it was so cool. Thematically, it's one of the coolest abilities we've had in a long time for Destro. The OG Legion Scepter Sargeras, and it's just a dead passive node now. Like, let's just make this like a cool ability and put it over here, build upon it. It's so sick, you know? Bring back like the bonus we had in wherever that was a few years ago, where like Cataclysm would apply on multiple immolates, or Wither, obviously, and whenever they ticked, you had a chance to reset a Rift charge. That'd be cool. You gotta tune it a bit, but that'd be super sick. I want like the button you hit for node again, or for Rift again. I want like Rift, Space, a Rift, Flame Rift, with Cleaving Embers and everything, Space Time, and like CDR reset. That'd be so sick, and that would make Destro feel like way more in-depth than it does now, versus like just the Immolate, Incinerate, Chaos Bolt Spender it's been for the last 15 years, right? You know, more mobility, it adds more depth to Destro. Like, I don't think it's bad, I just feel like we've sort of, this is a topic for a different video as well, probably at some point. I feel like we just sort of we've almost run the course of this version of Destro. And don't get me wrong, it's my opinion, you can totally be wrong there. And this version of Destro stayed around for the next 20 years, it'd still be fine. It's just like, you know, I can only hit on like certain points of feedback so much. Yeah, Shadowburn still Shadowburn, Havoc still Havoc, Infernal still Infernal, these are still these, and it's like, yeah, but I don't know. To summarize, I think that we need to probably look at overhauling this whole part of the tree here. Start here and everything downwards. Just basically this and this is like, okay, fix everything down here. This is sort of irrelevant. With Shadowburn over here, possibly. You can trim some of these down too, like to 1 point maybe if you need to, but either way, that's more or less it. It's Destro. Yeah. So thanks for watching, guys. Wraps it up. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. It might have been a bit of a long one. I was trying to like speed through it. I've been talking fast. I don't ever do like all 3 specs in the class tree in one video, but I wanted to do one this time because we had the 3 individual discussions to summarize it all and just get ready for the PTR for 12.1. I assume it's coming in a few weeks, probably like early to mid-June, probably like week 2 or 3 of June. I'm guessing August 11th for 12.1, which is the rumor going around. I don't know, rumors, like the predicted date with BlizzCon things being a thing. We'll see where it goes, but we're going to have a lot of content coming pretty soon. I want to get all this out there beforehand. Man, I should eat those chicken tenders. And just have like everything out there ready to go so we can hit 12.1 hard, hopefully in a few weeks whenever it comes around. So, yeah. I don't know, that's that. If you guys want to see the discussions that I had with all the awesome creators and stuff, you can check the channel for that. The last few videos that came out. I haven't put many videos out lately because honestly, man, it's been sort of slow. Just been doing keys, hanging out, but we got a lot of content coming out soon. So there is that. Like always, a huge thank you and shout out to my supporters on Patreon. All support, guys. Like always, thank you all a million times. Without your support, I wouldn't be able to keep doing this stuff, doing what I'm doing, and yeah, man, I appreciate y'all. Thank you, guys. I'm pumped, man. It's a weird feeling because, like, you know, PTR is looming, but it's like 12.7 or 12.07 is like in a couple weeks, and I want to log in and kill the boss. I'm gonna do that, obviously, but like it's like there's so much more looming. It's hard to always time these videos for feedback being like too early or too late, but I'm pretty sure at this point, like, we're gonna be in PTR for probably like 3 weeks, give or take, and I'm hoping this timing is good. So that's that. My hands are clean in this. We see where 12.1 goes. So all that being said, thanks for watching, guys. I'll catch y'all again soon on stream. Peace.